Hey, 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 Nicole Roberts Jones here, and welcome to this episode of the Meaningful Work Podcast, a time I connect with you to really give you insight on how to align your purpose, your gift, your career with your faith. And I'm excited about today's guest because if this wasn't the poster child to talk about this, I don't know who is. So let me introduce her to you. Her name is Dru Ealons. Now, listen, Dru is a mission driven leader passionate about faith, service, and strategic impact. She serves as Director of Missions and Community Engagement at the historic Metropolitan Baptist Church here in the DC area. Those of you that know, it's called the DMV, and as Executive Director of Leading for Life, an international nonprofit equipping high school students for lifelong success. Now, a former Obama administration official. I said it. I'm going to say it one more time for the people in the back that didn't hear me. A former Obama administration official, Dru is also, see, I'm getting excited and tongue tie my own self. Dru is also a sought after speaker and consultant known for helping others build meaningful relationships that lead to lasting change. Now, if that wasn't enough, she's a proud Silver Life member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. You know, I said the because I'm one too. And she lives here in the DC area with her husband, Corey, and their son, Maxwell. So help me welcome Dru. Hey, girl.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Always excited to be around you and get to talk to you. So I'm trying to contain my excitement, messing up your bio, getting excited.
That's okay. All love. It's all love here.
So let's just dig right in and tell us about how you really utilize the intersection of your unique strengths, your giftedness, and really doing the community engagement well, let me say it like this: you have a passion for service. So how did you find the way to intersect all those things in the work that you do?
Absolutely. So I think the first thing I had to really be prayerful about is, Lord, what is my purpose and what is my gift? So once I understood my gift is being a helper. My purpose is to connect um, everyone from either their faith or their purpose to work that will be able to, first and foremost, expand his kingdom, right? But also being able to meet the goals and needs of others, right? That is what service is all about. And so when I think about my ability to help, I also look at the word connect. I love connecting the dots. I love understanding how do I make something a holistic approach to being able to meet the needs of others. If it's not others, it might be meeting the need of the moment, of the time. And so it's interesting enough when this opportunity at Metropolitan came about. Originally, I was like, do I want? I mean, I'm not a minister, right? I'm not an ordained preacher, right? I guess we are all called to minister, but I am not an ordained preacher. So I was like, I don't know about that because the lovely woman who held this place, ordained reverend, doctor, lawyer, all those things. I was like, I don't know if that's me. But honestly, if I'm honest with myself, in my spirit, it kind of leapt at the opportunity.
Mm.
It was like, girl, do it. And I was like, is that me? Is it me or is it God calling me to do that? And so I recognize that we all have to be in a space where we are open and ready to receive whatever the next is for you, right? I think about at the beginning of the year, the women's ministry here, we said, come up with a word. And my word was manifest, or still is manifest. And I wanted to be able to use that word because I knew God was calling me to do greater works and greater things. And what a great opportunity it is right now to serve in community engagement and missions in this moment. As they all say, as we always say, for such a time as this,
Yes.
for our church to reach out and really help those who need to hear and feel and see God active in their lives.
So good, so good. So let's go back to the when you felt your belly leap, because that made me think of Elizabeth and Mary. And sometimes people feel a belly leap, and here's my question: some people feel the belly leap, and it is fear. They think it's fear. And
Yeah.
sometimes it is fear. Doesn't mean you're not meant to do it though. Sometimes it's
Right.
fear. And sometimes it's God pushing you out of your comfort zone. So how did you really in that moment when you felt the belly leap? How did you know the difference?
Well, um, I often, even if it was fear, I just want to be clear, even if it had been fear for me, um, I have learned that that is when God is able to do his greatest work through me. So I wasn't worried about fear. I think if I'm honest, I wanted to make sure it wasn't vanity.
Mm.
Um, I do a lot here at Metropolitan. I do a lot. I've had wonderful opportunities, as you said, in the Obama administration and the work I did prior to that, all the things. And so I wanted to make sure that I was really looking at this as an opportunity where God is using me and
So
not me feeling like I'm so fabulous, right? I
even
can
though
do
you are, even though you are, but yes.
but you really do have to really do that. And so the way that I knew that there was a difference, not only did I feel the leap that evening and the next several days, ideas, and not just the ideas, but the frameworks just started, like I think it was a Rain Man, was that the movie where you start seeing everything? I mean,
Mhm.
it was crystal clear
Mm.
how God can use me in this moment to help our pastor and our church meet its vision of innovation. But beyond that, how do we really help those I know, especially in the DMV and around this country, that are hurting? So I knew, because I could see it and I could see me in this role. I could
Right.
see God saying, this is what we can do here. And then starting to hear as pastor would be preaching and things, it was like it was all lining up together. So I had to call him and say, okay, let's talk.
But I love how you said, listen, I want you guys to get this, that you sat with it for a minute, right? And
Yes.
so one of the series that I just completed, I talked about Esther and the fact that when Mordecai went to Esther, and I'm not trying to get in the Bible, but I know she can roll with me, but I'm gonna just do it quick, y'all. So Mordecai went to Mordecai, Esther's uncle, said, hey girl, listen, you know they about to kill the Jews. Oh, but they don't know you a Jew. So you get to choose. What did Esther do? She didn't go, oh, okay, let me just go do something. She stopped and she prayed first. She said,
Yes.
listen, y'all fast and pray. You all fast and pray for 3 days. I'm gonna get all my girls, my peeps to do the same
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
And then whatever comes forward, I'm gonna go before him. And I love that you said I stopped and prayed first.
Yes. Because again, I wanted to make sure that this is where God saw me. I think in this second half of my life, right? I'm half a century. So I love to say I'm a half a century old, right?
I won't
So
be
in
claiming
this
that. Mhm,
second
go ahead.
but in the second half, I really want to make sure that I'm only in the space and the place where God needs me and where
Mm,
He really wants to use those tools and those skills that He's given me. I have been fortunate as a volunteer over the women's ministry to use those tools, but this was like there is something even greater to do. So it was really important to not get caught up in what that can do and what people say, because people can compliment you and they mean it well and getting hyped up, and you can start believing you. I think a friend of mine said you can believe the headlines. I'm starting to believe the headlines about me. So I just wanted to make sure I was really stepping into this in the right space and mindset, and guided by God totally in this
so
opportunity.
good, so good. So let's not shift, but let's talk a little bit about the elephant in the room and your experience at the Obama administration, and let's
Yes.
talk about how it shaped your understanding of purpose and leadership. And listen, this is what I want you guys to listen for. It's not about the title. It's not about our favorite president. It's not about that. But I want to talk about, because I know that was a connected activity for you as well. So let's talk, share a little bit about that.
Well, I will say the my placement in the Obama administration was at the Environmental Protection Agency, and while I might have recycled a little bit before that time, I didn't really understand the holistic approach of how the EPA truly impacts our everyday lives.
Hmm.
And so my role, again, helping and connecting. So as the strategic advisor to the administrator, I was also responsible for stakeholder engagement. And we brought so many new stakeholders to the table. To see everyone's eyes open up, including mine, learning a whole lot about all the different ways, not only does the environment impact us, but how rules are made
Mm,
and how important it is to be an advocate and to be able to go in and make a comment on rules and how that is shaping the policies that we see. I learned so much about when growing up. I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama. There was a community that we used to call Sandy Bottom, and I didn't understand why, but it was because of the soot that used to come up from the steel mills and the paper mill, and it would all fall into the community. And most of those people who lived in the community looked like us.
mm,
But we are people who always make lemonade out of lemons. So
right.
we said, "Oh, we live in Sandy Bottom," to make it seem, because I used to be, there's no beach. Like that's what I used to
Right,
say.
right.
There's no beach. How is it Sandy Bottom? But now to understand, and I didn't learn that history until I got to EPA.
That's deep.
And so to be able to expose people to things that we did not know about that really impact our life. Oh, girl, that right. I used to go home tired, but definitely feeling so full of gratitude to be able to
Mm,
bring this, bring what we did to the people and know that this is very important, not only to us, but into the administration and just the work, to see the puzzles. I guess
right.
how I fit into this big masterpiece of
Hmm.
President Obama's legacy and the work that we do. So that was just an amazing, and that's not much different than what I'm getting to do here as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So the thing I love, you just said puzzle pieces. So when someone came to you with this puzzle piece, because I know if someone came to me and said, I want to, recommend you for this role in the Obama administration, I don't think I would have gotten past that part, let alone to hear what the role was. I'm keeping it
Right.
real, y'all. Okay. So
Right.
I don't, so when that puzzle piece came to you, and was it something that was different than what you were already doing? And if so, how did you find the courage to say yes to it? And then find, again, listen, I love that you are a connector. You find that connection because puzzle pieces do what? They connect. So how
Mhm.
did you find that connection in that first moment when you got the call or the email or whatever?
So you go through the interview process, and I interviewed with the then Administrator Lisa Jackson. She was wonderful, and but I was really nervous about EPA because that was not a space that I knew anything about. I worked in human resources and diversity. Um, Back then, it was just probably called diversity and inclusion or something like that. No telling what it was called many moons ago, but. So I was like, "Oh, I want an appointment at the Department of Labor," because that made sense to me.
Right.
But when I spoke with Lisa Jackson, it was a great space, and I actually felt comfortable and confident that I can take any subject. If somebody can explain it to me, I can take that subject and I can win over more people. I can use, like you said, the gift of gab, the gift of connection, the gift of making it make sense and make it plain to others. And also going back to our scientists and all of our economists and all of that, and saying, we got to make this plain. Let's figure out how to make this plain so that mothers can understand, mothers of color can understand, so that children can understand, so that other communities, the Hispanic community, can understand. I really enjoyed that. And I wasn't afraid to be able to step in it. I just wanted to make sure I understood it. And that was
Mm,
my part of, I studied. I would go and I had these people who I called a part of my kitchen cabinet, who knew everything about environmental justice, who knew everything just about the science in general, who knew all these different things. And they would come and I would have meetings with them just so that they can help me be a better spokesperson for our administrator, the agency, as well as for President Obama.
so good, so good. So those of you that are listening that are in the middle of a career transition, I want you to see what it looks like to stare in the face of fear, because it had to be scary when you don't know what you're doing, and activate your faith and trust the gift that God put inside of you over your fear, over what you don't know.
right?
And I love that you said I might not have known, but I got a cabinet together to help me know so I can study.
And I think that is really important, making sure you have trusted advisors, your kitchen cabinet, whatever your board of directors, whatever you want to call it, to be able to bring them to. And to be clear, for these big major environmental organizations, are mostly led by men and mostly white men.
Hmm.
But I found my different people in all of the different agencies or organizations, and they too became a part of my cabinet because they wanted to make sure we had more and different and unique voices at the table to make sure we were advocating, most importantly, for ourselves and our communities. So it was very important. I was intentional in every step that I made in that.
So good. And then coming out of that, you started an organization, and tell me if I'm wrong and correct me, because I'm doing this by heart, y'all, which I should never do. Leading for Life, right? Working with high school students. So tell us that, what that passion was that drummed in you when you said, okay, now I know I've got to touch the next generation.
Right. So I was in the administration, working hard, really, 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 really hard. And I had relatively an infant, a young child. And so I was working in the mornings into the evenings. When you're an appointee, you're on call all the time. And then after going hard for, a couple of years into his next administration, I was like, okay, I want to go home. I just want to be stay at home. I needed to release my mind. And so we had a friend who I worked with, just kind of making sure his organization, which is Leading for Life, knew a lot about what was going on. He was like, okay, take your rest, but when you are ready, I'd love for you to be a consultant. So I
Mm,
started consulting with Leading for Life first. And I loved its mission of bringing young, underserved communities of high school students and connected them with colleges and universities and opening up their minds to the idea of lifelong learning. And so when I don't think he gave me a year, but I did take a year, came back, he was like, come, I consulted for several years with him. And then he asked me to come on to be the executive director. And it's always been for me mission driven. Even when I came right out of school and worked in human resources, that was still mission driven when I look back on it. But this gave me an opportunity to impact the lives of young people, so that they can go out and just become the best version of who God has called them to be. So that's why I just was like, yeah, of course I'll do this. Of
right.
course I've got time to do this.
Especially coming out of where you were coming from. So,
Right, right.
and everything you've worked in, from being a consultant to being an
Mhm.
advisor to, working around community impact, where do you see or what advice would you give to someone that's really looking to align their passion with their work that they do?
Ooh. So that's it can be difficult because sometimes, we're coming out of school or we're coming out of another situation and we're just trying to make sure we can pay our bills.
Right.
And I have to be, especially in this time that we're in, um, people are trying to make sure they can pay their bills. And I think
Mhm.
the most important thing is, as what we said at the top, is being very, very prayerful, because you can always find opportunities to really live out your passion, even in a corporation. And sometimes it takes you a moment for you to step outside of the work that we're being paid to do, versus the work we're being purposed to do.
Mm.
And so, as an example, right out of school, I went to Southern Progress. I helped create the HR department. And while that was great and that was fun, I sought out the opportunity to lead their charitable contributions and charitable giving. I ended up being able to chair charitable giving. That was not necessarily my role, but to be able to fund organizations who weren't always getting the funds and the opportunity, I sought that out. And
Mhm.
because it was purpose driven, because I was able to connect them. And let me be clear, it was not only just charitable organizations. I also got a chance to introduce organizations like the National Association of Black Journalists, the National Association of Hispanic Journalists, to a magazine and book publishing company who desperately needed more Black and brown and other voices in their
Mm,
magazines. And so while those things weren't necessarily designed for me in the job description that was given, I sought out purpose work there so that I can feel fulfilled. I
mm,
can do those other things with my eyes closed. But this gave me so much purpose and energy. And honestly, I was a bit sad to leave. I mean, but I did not know where God was going to take me. But it was like I got married, had to move to DC, and I was like, but I love my work, right? But hey, getting that opportunity is what really set me apart. But the connections that I make, I still have even today.
mm. So good, so good. And the common denominator with you is even though you may have taken a job that may not have felt connected at all to your passion, you found the place that
Mhm.
was the place you could swim in, even in a role that may have felt like it was in no way connected to who you thought you should be.
Right. And so I honestly believe God guided me there because again, those connections that I made in that role back in 1998, I still have those relationships even today.
Mm.
And they all have helped me throughout my journey, even on today. So no matter where I've been, those connections started there at Southern Progress and every opportunity I've had since then.
So good, so good. And as I'm listening to you, what's coming in my mind is Romans, and it's either 8:28 or 8:29. Listen, y'all, I know the Bible, and sometimes I don't always say the right Bible verse, but it's around there that says all things work
Yes.
together. Not a few things, not a couple of things, not maybe a minuscule number of things. No, it says all things. And when you look at it, and as I listen to your journey, because I didn't know all the story, but now I'm looking at all the puzzle pieces that have made Dru who you are today, and how every connection has been a stepping stone, has been a
Mhm.
stepping stone so that you're growing more and more in who you be and your ability to serve God on
Yes.
a whole new level.
Yes. That is, I mean, when I think about it, to your point, I guess having to, slow down and kind of like, okay, let me really think about what we're going to talk about today. And taking that moment of just looking at my journey, there is that through line of being able to be a helper that could cause a connection. And I'll give you one quick snippet of this. So I remember making a connection with faith and politics. I can't remember the whole name, right? So there are two things, two quick things: faith and politics. And undergrad, I went to Florida A&M University first, and I transferred, but I went to Florida A&M. These are two very important things. Made the relationships with a person at faith and politics. When they're the organization that does the enactment of the Selma to Montgomery March.
Yeah.
When I was at EPA, I was able to get Lisa Jackson the prime spot of speaking
Hmm.
at Brown Chapel, which was the first time they ever had a woman to speak from the pulpit around the commemoration of Selma to Montgomery. Why? Relationships. Fast forward towards the end of when she was about to go and do something else. Um, all we had to do all of these college graduations. A very good friend of mine, and I call him a friend because he was the dean, used to be the dean of the School of Journalism at Florida A&M. That relationship I made while at Southern Progress in 1998. Called him and said, hey, I would like her to be the commencement speaker. Not only was she able to be the commencement speaker, but she was also received her first honorary doctorate degree.
Mm.
Relationships. And that's one thing that she will always remember. So if I wanted to call her up, I don't have to talk to her, but
Right.
it's the relationship and the connection. So that through line of making sure that you are good to people along the way, because that's also a way that you're able to connect. But then also saying, God, just use me, just being open to being
Yeah.
used. And I feel like when he does that, that is when Romans 8:28 really comes to light.
That's so good, and you're making me think of something that happened to me. So, when I used to work in entertainment, you know this, in the entertainment
Mhm.
industry, and the last job I had, I was doing it while I was getting while I was in my graduate program from social work, and so I worked at a comedy club. I was a manager. One of the comedians, he's still a good friend to this day.
Mhm.
had a comedy club. And so he asked me to manage it. Sure, I need the money because I'm in grad school, right? So to
Right.
make a long story short, every week comedians would come up, and that's what they called it, come up to try to go up, and so they kind
Right.
of wait around to wait their turn. They'd submit a packet that I could look through. And some people I would say, hey, I would call them and say, hey, you're going to go up this week. But some people would wait around, try to wait for their turn. Well, there was this one woman, Dru, every week she would submit her packet
Mm.
and I never chose her. And if
Mm.
I'm real, I never chose her because she wasn't funny.
Mhm.
So one Monday, she asked me, she said, Nicole, every Monday, and this had been like probably 6 months, she showed up every single Monday. And she saw comedian after comedian pass her. So she
Mm.
came up to me and said, Nicole, how come you don't choose me? And I said to her, do you want the real answer or do you want me to give you the feel good answer? And she
Right.
said, I want the real answer. So because I always trying to honor people's spirit first, I said, so your packet is the most well put together packet every week, girl. You are so professional.
Mhm.
And then I said, but you're just not funny. I said, what I would recommend is that you help the rest of these comedians put their packages together. We laughed about it and never saw that woman again. Now, cut to, I don't work in entertainment anymore. I now am running my own nonprofit and I had the opportunity to go meet with the speaker of the state of California because I had done some other work with him and he wanted to hear about my program and see how he could help me move my program forward. I
Mhm.
walk into the office that day. The receptionist says, oh, let me walk you back to his assistant's office. I walk in his assistant's office, and his assistant is finishing up a meeting with a woman. So
Mhm.
she greets me and she says, let me walk her out. She comes back and she says, Nicole, do you remember that woman? And I said, no. Now, mind you, this is maybe 5, 6 years later. She said, that was my sister, and she wanted to be a comedian.
Oh, wow.
And she said, "And you were so wonderful to her. You told her what we have been trying to tell her for years, but you did it in such a wonderful way." She said, "You don't need to meet the speaker. Tell me how much money you need to raise for your nonprofit." She wrote me a check in that moment.
Wow. Wow.
So you never know whose life you're touching. I always trying to honor people, even when I got to tell them some hard news. I'm always going to be truthful. But I
Yes.
asked her, I was going to tell her the truth anyway, whether she wanted it easy or not. I was trying to figure out how I needed to be. So I love listening to your entire story, Dru, because all along the way, these connecting points and how God has used all of it to move you forward in your career, not just a career, but in kingdom building. Because what I
Yes.
see you doing is building God's kingdom. So
Yes.
thank you for all you are doing. Thank you for all you've done. And as we wrap this conversation, which has been so good, is there anything you want to say in closing?
I think that the one thing I want to say is what I said a few moments ago is to remain open, remain prayerful. And there used to be a song I used to sing in the children's or the youth choir, and it says, "Lord, use me. I want to be used. Use me in Thy service."
Mm,
You may not know what it's going to look like. You may not understand why you're in a position that you're in, but always ask God, how can I be used in this moment? That will give you peace, that will give you joy, and that will give you a heart full of gratitude, something that no one else or no thing can take away.
ooh, so good, so good. Thank you, Drew. You've given us so much to think about, and I'm trying not to look. I can go to the ugly cry because you've taken me to a whole place with that song right there. So
I
thank you.
know.
I
You're
appreciate you, girl.
welcome.
So with that, y'all, another episode. So much great insight. I couldn't even write fast enough, y'all. You know I take notes. My pen is here. I do take notes. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do, which I ask you at the end of every episode. Number one, share your takeaways in the comments. Whether you do it on my Instagram page, whether you do it here in YouTube, wherever you are watching this episode, I want to hear from you. Why? Because here's the thing you've got to know. Everyone's going to get the insight in different ways. When you share and people read your comments, they're seeing things that they would have never thought of that happened in this interview. So, one, I want you to share. And then I'm two, going to ask you to read the comments so you see what other people are getting. The third thing is I'm going to ask you to share this episode with your network. Again, I say this every episode, y'all. And I say this, I'm not trying to grow my following. I mean, growing my following is great. But what I'm trying to do is grow the reach for the people that need this insight. I wonder if you realize that God created you to have meaningful work, and that meaningful work then dictates you having your part and building the kingdom here. That is why I ask you to share so we can grow and serve God in a mightier way. And we do that when more people get this insight. So, with that said, it's always my honor and privilege to be here with you to bring other phenomenal guests that pour into you. I look forward to reading your comments, and I'll see you next time for another episode of the Meaningful Work Podcast. Bye, y'all.